What happens when the galaxy's most feared predator species discovers they've been hunting prey that hunts back? For 3,000 years, the Kethvar Empire had swept across star systems like a cosmic plague, their massive fleets reducing entire civilizations to ash and memory. No species had ever stood against them for more than a few rotations. No world had ever made them bleed. No enemy had ever made them afraid. Then, they found a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system, inhabited by a species that called themselves humans. What the Kethvar thought would be another routine extermination became the beginning of their worst nightmare. For the first time in their empire's history, they discovered what it meant to be the hunted instead of the hunter. They learned that some prey bite back with teeth sharper than their own. This is the story of Commander Zethrak, one of the few Kethvar survivors who witnessed humanity's true nature firsthand. His account, recorded in the Imperial Archives as a warning to future generations, reveals how Earth's children turned the galaxy's apex predators into trembling survivors hiding in the dark corners of space. Some species are born to rule. Others are born to serve. But humans? Humans are born to fight. And when they fight, even monsters learn to fear the dark. Commander Zethrak stood on the bridge of the Dominion-class destroyer Void Reaper, his 6 eyes scanning the tactical displays with practiced efficiency. 3,000 conquest cycles had honed his instincts to perfection. The blue planet rotating slowly on his main screen should have been just another routine extermination, another footnote in the endless expansion of the Kethvar Empire. The preliminary scans had revealed a primitive civilization barely capable of crude spaceflight. Their technology was laughably primitive compared to Kethvar standards. No energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light communication networks. The inhabitants called themselves humans, and their pathetic attempts at space exploration hadn't even reached their nearest stellar neighbor. By all measures, this should have been the easiest conquest of Zethrak's long career. His mandibles clicked together in what passed for amusement among his species. 3,000 cycles of conquest had taught him to read civilizations like open data streams. The humans fit the pattern perfectly, a young species barely out of their cradle world with primitive technology and no understanding of the greater galaxy. They would see the Kethvar fleet descending from the stars and either submit immediately or resist futilely for a few local time periods before inevitably falling. The human planet orbited a single yellow star in what the Empire classified as Sector 7, Alpha 9. Intelligence reports indicated approximately 8 billion inhabitants spread across multiple landmasses. Their largest population centers clustered around bodies of liquid water, a common trait among water-dependent species. Atmospheric composition was nitrogen-oxygen. Gravity was within acceptable parameters for Kethvar operations, and the planet's resources would make a valuable addition to the Empire. Zethrak's primary eye focused on the communication display as his signals officer approached. Subcommander Vextol, a veteran of 200 conquests himself, carried a data pad containing the initial contact protocols. Commander, we've intercepted multiple human communication channels. Their primitive radio transmissions contain what appears to be entertainment broadcasts, information exchanges, and something they call news. They show no awareness of our presence, Vextol reported, his secondary arms gesturing to emphasize the humans' obvious technological inferiority. Any indication of military preparation or defensive capabilities? Zethrak asked, though he expected the standard response. Young civilizations rarely possessed anything worthy of the term military by Kethvar standards. Primitive kinetic weapons, chemical explosives, and what they term nuclear devices. Their most advanced military technology appears to be crude projectile-based aircraft and surface vessels. No energy weapons, no particle shields, no subspace communication. They're completely isolated on their single world. Vextol replied with barely concealed disdain. Zethrak nodded, his confidence solidifying. The pattern held true once again. Humanity would join the countless other species that had learned too late that the galaxy belonged to the Kethvar Empire. His fleet of 12 destroyers and 60 support vessels carried enough firepower to reduce the human planet to molten slag within a single rotation. But the Empire preferred conquered worlds intact when possible, as dead planets produced no resources or slave labor. The standard protocol called for a demonstration of overwhelming force, followed by an ultimatum. Most species surrendered immediately upon witnessing Kethvar military superiority. Those few who didn't rarely lasted long enough to regret their decision. "Begin standard conquest protocol," Zethrak commanded, his voice carrying the authority of 3 millennia of imperial tradition. "Deploy the demonstration fleet in high orbit. Target their largest population centers with precision strikes. Minimal damage, maximum psychological impact. I want them to understand their situation without destroying valuable infrastructure." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, each warrior knowing their role in the familiar dance of conquest. Weapons systems powered up with the distinctive whine of charging plasma banks. Navigation plotted optimal firing positions. Communications prepared the standard surrender demands in the local language. The fleet moved into position above Earth with the confident precision of predators approaching helpless prey. Zethrak watched the main display as the ships spread across the planet's orbital space, their massive hulls blotting out stars in the night sky of the unsuspecting world below. The first phase began with precision plasma strikes on uninhabited areas near major population centers. The strikes were carefully calculated to demonstrate devastating power without causing significant casualties. The Kethvar had refined this technique across thousands of conquests. Show enough force to break their spirit, but not so much that you destroy what you came to claim. Brilliant blue-white flashes erupted across the human planet's surface as plasma bolts struck carefully selected targets. A mountain range in what humans called Asia vaporized in seconds, leaving only a glass-lined crater. An uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean simply ceased to exist, replaced by a column of superheated steam. The message was clear: submit or watch your world burn. Zethrak expected the usual response patterns. First shock, then panic, then desperate attempts at communication, finally surrender. Some species tried to negotiate. Others begged for mercy. A few attempted futile resistance. All eventually knelt before Kethvar superiority. But as the hours passed, the human response proved unusual. Instead of panic or immediate surrender, their communication networks erupted with activity. Military frequencies crackled with rapid, organized chatter. Government channels coordinated responses with surprising efficiency. Most puzzling of all, their entertainment broadcasts continued alongside what appeared to be recruitment messages. "Commander, we're receiving an official communication from the human government," the communications officer reported, uncertainty coloring his usually steady voice. "Display it," Zethrak ordered, expecting the familiar pattern of tearful surrender or desperate pleas for mercy. The main screen flickered, showing a human male in what appeared to be formal attire. The creature's small, soft features bore no resemblance to the proud warrior physiology of the Kethvar. Its skin was pale and smooth, lacking the protective chitin plating that marked truly evolved species. It had only two eyes, positioned inefficiently in the front of its head. By all appearances, it was exactly what Zethrak expected from a primitive species: weak, vulnerable, and utterly unprepared for galactic reality. To the forces currently in orbit of our planet, the human began, its voice steady despite the obvious technological superiority of the fleet above its world. I am Secretary General Chun of the United Nations. We have received your demonstration of force. While we acknowledge your advanced capabilities, humanity does not surrender. If you wish to claim our world, you'll have to take it. We will resist with everything we have. This is our home, and we will defend it. Zethrak's mandibles clicked in genuine surprise. In 3,000 cycles of conquest, he had never heard such a response to an overwhelming demonstration of force. Did these humans not understand the futility of their position? Had their primitive technology left them unable to comprehend the scale of power arrayed against them? Are their scanning systems so primitive they cannot detect our true capabilities? Zethrak asked his tactical officer. Unknown, Commander. Their sensor technology is crude, but they should be able to detect our fleet size and approximate firepower. Perhaps their leadership is simply irrational. Zethrak considered this possibility. Some species did respond irrationally when faced with extinction. Fear could drive primitive minds to desperate acts of defiance. But something about the human's demeanor suggested calculation rather than panic. The creature had spoken with the confidence of someone who believed they had options. So Commander Vextol, begin the second phase. Increase pressure on military targets. Eliminate their orbital assets and communication satellites. Show them they cannot hide from Kethvar superiority. The order was carried out with typical Kethvar precision. Human satellites fell like burning stars across their night sky. Communication networks went dark across entire continents. Military installations disappeared under precise plasma strikes. The technological foundation of human civilization crumbled under the methodical assault. Yet still, the humans did not surrender. Backup communication systems came online almost immediately. Hidden military facilities revealed themselves as they opened fire with primitive but surprisingly numerous weapons. Most shocking of all, human civilians began demonstrating in the streets of their cities, not in panic, but in defiance. Zethrak studied the intelligence reports flowing in from his surveillance teams. The humans were behaving unlike any species in recorded imperial history. Instead of breaking under pressure, they seemed to be organizing. Instead of despair, their communications channels carried messages of determination and resolve. Commander, we're detecting unusual activity across the human planet, his intelligence officer reported. They appear to be mobilizing their entire population for what they term total war. Military production facilities are working at maximum capacity. Civilian populations are relocating to underground installations. They're treating this as if they believe they can win. The absurdity of the situation struck Zethrak like a physical blow. These primitives actually thought they could resist the Kethvar Empire. They faced annihilation with the same casual confidence that a Kethvar warrior might show when swatting an insect. Either they were the most deluded species the Empire had ever encountered, or they possessed some capability that Kethvar intelligence had missed. Increase scans on human military capabilities. Search for hidden weapons, advanced technology, anything that might explain their confidence, Zethrak ordered. Something was wrong here. 3,000 cycles of experience screamed warnings that his conscious mind couldn't quite articulate. The detailed scans revealed nothing that should have given the humans confidence. Their weapons remained primitive. Their defenses were laughably weak. Their technology lagged millennia behind Kethvar standards. Yet they continued organizing resistance with the methodical efficiency of a species that believed victory was possible. As the human day cycled past into night across their largest population centers, Zethrak made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his existence. He would give these deluded primitives one final lesson in galactic reality. A demonstration so overwhelming that even their primitive minds would grasp the futility of resistance. Prepare the full fleet for surface assault. Target their capital cities. Show them what happens when species refuse the mercy of the Kethvar Empire. The order rippled through the fleet as thousands of Kethvar warriors prepared for what should have been a simple extermination. Weapons charged to full power. Assault craft loaded with infantry. Bombardment systems locked onto targets across the human world. But as the fleet moved into attack formation, something unprecedented happened. The humans fired back. Not with the primitive kinetic weapons that Kethvar intelligence had cataloged. Not with the chemical explosives or crude projectiles that marked their expected technological level. They fired back with something that no Kethvar had seen before, something that would reshape his understanding of what it meant to be the apex predator of the galaxy. The first indication of humanity's true nature came as a stream of projectiles that moved too fast for Kethvar sensors to track properly. The second came as those projectiles began impacting Kethvar shields with kinetic force that shouldn't have been possible from such primitive technology. The third came as Zethrak realized that humanity had been hiding their true capabilities behind a facade of technological primitivism. The humans had been preparing for this moment, not for cycles or even generations, but for their entire recorded history. Every conflict, every war, every technological advancement had been building toward this single purpose: the defense of their world against anything that might threaten it. As the first Kethvar destroyer exploded in Earth's orbital space, its hull breached by weapons that human engineering had somehow made far deadlier than their apparent sophistication suggested, Zethrak began to understand that he wasn't hunting prey. He was about to become it. The explosion of the destroyer, Eternal Conquest, sent shockwaves through more than just the vacuum of space around Earth. It shattered 3 millennia of Kethvar assumptions about the nature of warfare, the hierarchy of species, and the fundamental order of the galaxy. As Zethrak watched debris from what had been one of the Empire's most formidable warships spiral toward the human planet's atmosphere, his mind struggled to process what his eyes had witnessed. The projectile that destroyed the Eternal Conquest had been nothing more than a cylinder of metal. No energy signature, no exotic matter, no complex technological systems. Just refined metal accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed by what human communications referred to as a railgun. The concept was theoretically simple, almost primitive in its directness. Yet the execution had been devastating beyond Kethvar expectations. "Damage report," Zethrak commanded, his voice maintaining the steady tone that had carried him through 3,000 cycles of conquest, even as his worldview crumbled around him. "Hull breach on Deck 7 through 12. Primary plasma conduits severed. The Eternal Conquest is gone, Commander. Total crew loss," his tactical officer reported with the stunned precision of someone delivering impossible news. The projectile penetrated our shields as if they weren't there. Zethrak's 6 eyes focused on the tactical display as new information flowed in from across the fleet. The humans weren't limiting themselves to orbital defense. Across the planet's surface, installations that Kethvar intelligence had cataloged as primitive military bases were revealing their true nature. What had appeared to be simple radar stations unfolded into massive electromagnetic accelerators. Structures dismissed as civilian factories opened to reveal missile silos containing weapons that defied easy categorization. Commander, we're receiving multiple target locks from the surface. The humans appear to have weaponized their entire planet, Subcommander Vextol reported, his usual confidence replaced by something Zethrak had never heard in a Kethvar voice before: uncertainty. The main display showed a three-dimensional representation of Earth's defensive network as it revealed itself. Red indicators sprouted across every continent like a rash of technological violence. Mountain ranges that had appeared natural on long-range scans showed the distinctive heat signatures of massive underground complexes. Ocean floors that should have been empty revealed the presence of submarine installations armed with weapons whose energy signatures Kethvar sensors couldn't fully categorize. But it wasn't just the weapons themselves that disturbed Zethrak. It was the coordination. Every human installation, from the largest military complex to the smallest communication relay, operated as part of a unified defensive network. The humans had turned their entire world into a fortress, and they had done it with a level of integration and redundancy that impressed even Kethvar military standards. Intelligence report on human combat doctrine, Zethrak ordered, trying to understand how he had so completely misjudged this species. The intelligence officer's report painted a picture that explained everything and nothing at once. Humans, it seemed, had spent their entire recorded history at war. Not the ritualized combat that most species engaged in for territory or resources, but constant, innovative, evolving warfare that pushed their technology and tactics forward with relentless pressure. Their history was a catalog of conflict that would have impressed Kethvar military academics. Wars fought with sticks, and stones evolved into wars fought with metal and chemistry. Conflicts between tribes became conflicts between nations. Local disputes escalated into planetary wars that involved every human on their world. Each war drove innovation, forcing rapid advancement in weapons technology, tactical thinking, and strategic planning. What had appeared to be technological primitivism was actually technological deception on a scale that no Kethvar strategist had imagined possible. The humans had deliberately concealed their true capabilities behind a facade of crude space exploration and primitive communication systems. Their real technology had been hidden underground, under their oceans, and behind carefully crafted misinformation campaigns that had fooled Kethvar intelligence completely. Sir, the humans are broadcasting on multiple frequencies. They appear to be taunting us, the communications officer reported with obvious confusion. Display it, Zethrak commanded, though he suspected he wouldn't enjoy what he was about to see. The main screen showed a human in what appeared to be military attire. Unlike the soft-featured diplomat from earlier, this human's appearance suggested someone familiar with violence. Scars marked his face, and his eyes held the cold calculation of a predator evaluating prey. To the alien fleet currently learning that Earth doesn't surrender easily, the human began, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who held winning cards in a deadly game. I'm General Harrison, commanding officer of Earth's Unified Defense Forces. You've just discovered what every tyrant in human history has learned the hard way. We don't make good victims. The human's image was replaced by tactical displays showing the destruction of the eternal conquest from multiple angles. Human commentators provided analysis with the casual professionalism of species that had spent millennia studying the art of killing. Your ship was destroyed by a Mark 7 orbital defense railgun, firing a tungsten penetrator at 12% of light speed. We have 230 37 such installations strategically positioned around our planet. Each one can fire every 30 seconds. We also have conventional missiles, plasma cannons reverse-engineered from wreckage of previous alien visitors, nuclear devices, antimatter warheads, and several weapons systems that we prefer to keep as surprises. Zethrak's mandibles locked in shock. Previous alien visitors? How many species had encountered humanity before the Kethvar Empire arrived? What had happened to them? The human general continued his presentation with the methodical thoroughness of someone who had planned this moment for decades. You came here expecting easy prey. Instead, you found a species that has been preparing for this exact scenario for over a century. We've studied every aspect of warfare, from individual combat to fleet operations. We've wargamed alien invasions, developed countermeasures for every type of attack we could imagine, and built redundant defense systems that can operate independently even if our command structure is destroyed. The display showed cross-sections of human underground installations that rivaled anything in Kethvar military engineering. Entire cities had been built beneath the planet's surface, connected by transportation networks that could move troops and resources anywhere on the planet within hours. Manufacturing facilities buried kilometers underground could produce weapons and ammunition at rates that seemed impossible for such a young civilization. But here's what you really need to understand about humanity, the general said, his expression hardening into something that made Zethrak's combat instinct scream warnings. We don't just fight to win. We fight to ensure that anyone who threatens us never threatens anyone else again. When humans go to war, we go to war completely. Every man, woman, and child becomes part of the war effort. Every resource gets dedicated to victory. Every piece of technology gets weaponized. Every tactical advantage gets exploited to its fullest potential. The transmission ended, leaving the Kethvar bridge in silence as the implications settled over the crew like a toxic fog. Zethrak had commanded fleets in conflicts against species with advanced technology, superior numbers, and formidable military traditions. But he had never faced an enemy that had spent their entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of warfare. Commander, we're detecting massive movement across the human planet, the sensor officer reported. Military units are deploying from underground installations. Civilian populations are evacuating to fortified positions. They appear to be implementing a planetary defense protocol that involves their entire civilization. Zethrak studied the tactical displays as humanity revealed the true scale of their preparations. What he had assumed was a primitive world with scattered military installations was actually a fortress planet where every geographic feature had been weaponized, every population center had been fortified, and every citizen had been trained for warfare. Human cities weren't just population centers. They were massive defensive complexes with overlapping fields of fire, redundant command structures, and supply systems designed to operate independently for extended periods. Human transportation networks weren't just for civilian use. They were military logistics systems disguised as commercial infrastructure. Human manufacturing wasn't limited to consumer goods. Every factory could be converted to weapons production within hours. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting additional human activity throughout their star system, the tactical officer reported. They appear to have installations on their moon, asteroid mining operations that double as weapons platforms, and what looks like a defensive network extending to the edge of their solar system. The scope of human preparation continued to expand as Kethvar sensors penetrated deeper into what had appeared to be empty space. Asteroid belts revealed hidden installations. Planetary moons showed signs of extensive military construction. Even the system's outer planets have been weaponized to some degree, creating a defensive network that extended across their entire star system. Zethrak realized with growing unease that humanity hadn't just prepared to defend their home world. They had prepared to defend their entire star system, as if they expected any attack to involve complete extermination rather than simple conquest. The level of paranoia and militarization suggested a species that understood galactic reality far better than their apparent technological level indicated. "Commander, we're receiving priority communications from the Empire," the communications officer announced. "High Command is requesting a status report on the conquest of the human world." Zethrak stared at the communication indicator, knowing that he would have to explain the impossible to superiors who had never encountered a situation like this in 3 millennia of conquest. How could he tell the Empire that a primitive species had not only resisted, but had demonstrated capabilities that rivaled Kethvar military engineering? "Delay the transmission," he ordered. "Tell High Command that we're evaluating local conditions." The truth was that Zethrak needed time to understand what he was facing before he committed his fleet to a battle that was rapidly becoming unlike anything in Kethvar military experience. The humans had demonstrated that they possessed advanced weapons technology disguised as primitive systems. They had shown organizational capabilities that suggested military planning on a scale that rivaled the Empire itself. Most disturbing of all, they had revealed a cultural dedication to warfare that made even Kethvar battle hardness seem restrained by comparison. As another wave of human missiles streaked up from the planet's surface toward his fleet, their primitive chemical propulsion systems concealing warheads that sensors couldn't fully analyze, Zethrak began to suspect that his 3,000 cycles of experience had not prepared him for humanity. The galaxy's apex predators had found a species that didn't just fight back. They had found a species that had been preparing for this fight longer than the Kethvar Empire had existed. The second wave of human attacks came not from the planet's surface, but from the darkness of space itself. Zethrak's sensors detected movement where his tactical displays had shown empty vacuum only moments before. Objects that had registered as space debris or natural asteroids suddenly came alive with engine signatures and weapon systems that defied Kethvar understanding of stealth technology. Ambush vessels decloaking on multiple vectors, his tactical officer announced with a controlled panic of someone watching impossibility unfold in real time. They were hiding in our sensor shadows using some form of passive camouflage. The main display erupted with new contact indicators as humanity's true defensive strategy revealed itself. What the Kethvar had assumed was a primitive species making a desperate last stand from their home world was actually a carefully orchestrated military operation involving assets positioned throughout their entire star system. The humans hadn't just been hiding their weapons. They had been hiding entire fleets. The attacking vessels defied easy categorization. Some appeared to be converted civilian craft, their cargo holds replaced with weapon systems that punched far above their apparent weight class. Others looked purpose-built for war, sleek, and predatory designs that spoke to a military engineering tradition far more advanced than Kethvar intelligence had detected. All of them moved with the coordinated precision of units that had trained together for years. Analysis of human combat patterns, Zethrak demanded, watching as a supposedly overwhelming fleet found itself surrounded by enemies that had materialized from empty space. The tactical computer's response painted a picture of military doctrine that was both alien and terrifyingly effective. Human combat strategy appeared to be based on asymmetric warfare principles that maximize their advantages while minimizing their technological disadvantages. Instead of meeting Kethvar forces in direct confrontation where superior firepower would dominate, they used mobility, deception, and surprise to level the playing field. Their hidden fleet consisted of small, fast vessels that struck without warning and disappeared before Kethvar weapons could target them effectively. Each attack damaged specific systems rather than attempting to destroy entire ships, degrading Kethvar combat effectiveness through accumulated damage rather than spectacular kills. It was a patient, methodical approach to warfare that suggested strategic thinking on a level that impressed even Zethrak's experienced military mind. "Commander, they're using our own formation against us," Subcommander Vextol reported with growing respect for their opponents. Their attack patterns suggest they studied Kethvar fleet tactics and developed specific countermeasures. Zethrak studied the tactical display as human forces demonstrated their understanding of Kethvar military doctrine. They targeted command ships to disrupt coordination. They attacked support vessels to limit the fleet's operational endurance. They struck at communication arrays to prevent effective fleet-wide cooperation. Most importantly, they did all of this while avoiding direct engagement with the heavily armed destroyers that formed the core of Kethvar offensive capability. The humans were fighting a war of attrition against an enemy they couldn't match in direct combat, using superior knowledge of local conditions and innovative tactics to turn Kethvar advantages into vulnerabilities. It was exactly the kind of warfare that Kethvar military academies taught as theoretical examples of how weaker forces could challenge superior opponents, but no species had ever implemented these principles so effectively against the Empire. "Sir, we're receiving tactical communications from human forces," the communications officer reported. "They appear to be coordinating their attacks using our own communication intercepts." The revelation sent a chill through Zethrak's combat instincts. Not only were the humans monitoring Kethvar communications, they were using that intelligence to predict and counter Kethvar tactical decisions in real time. Every order he gave provided information that human strategists could use to anticipate his next move. "Implement Communication Protocol 7, Zethrak ordered, switching to the quantum encrypted channels reserved for conflicts against technologically advanced opponents. If they want to eavesdrop on our communications, make them work for it." But even as his fleet adapted their communication security, the humans demonstrated another layer of preparation that defied Zethrak's understanding of their supposed technological limitations. Their attacks began incorporating electronic warfare elements that shouldn't have been possible with primitive technology. Kethvar sensors experienced interference that suggested jamming capabilities far beyond what human technology should have achieved. Navigation systems reported false readings that indicated sophisticated understanding of Kethvar sensor technology. "Commander, they're attempting to hack our fleet network," the ship's security officer reported with obvious disbelief. "Primitive computer viruses are somehow interfacing with our quantum processing systems." The absurdity of the situation struck Zethrak like a physical blow. Computer viruses, a concept so antiquated that most civilized species had abandoned the technology centuries before developing spaceflight, were somehow affecting Kethvar quantum computers that operated on principles these humans shouldn't have understood. Yet somehow, human programmers had developed attack software that could bridge the gap between primitive digital systems and advanced quantum networks. How was that possible? Zethrak demanded, watching as systems throughout his fleet reported anomalous behavior. "Unknown, sir. The attack vectors don't match any known hacking techniques. They appear to be using brute force methods combined with adaptive algorithms that learn our security protocols in real time. It's crude, but surprisingly effective." Zethrak began to understand that humanity's apparent technological primitivism was actually a form of technological diversity that gave them unexpected advantages. While they lacked the refined, standardized technology that characterized advanced galactic civilizations, they compensated with innovative applications of multiple technological approaches. Their weapons combined kinetic, energy, chemical, and even nuclear technologies in ways that created capabilities greater than the sum of their parts. Display current fleet status, Zethrak ordered, needing to assess the cumulative damage from humanity's unconventional warfare. The tactical display showed a fleet that remained formidable but was rapidly losing effectiveness. No ship had been destroyed since the Eternal Conquest, but every vessel showed signs of systematic degradation. Communication systems operated at reduced efficiency due to electronic interference. Weapons systems suffered from targeted damage to support infrastructure. Life support systems strained under the load of constant combat alerts and battle damage. Most concerning of all, crew morale was beginning to show signs of stress that Zethrak had never seen in Kethvar warriors. His troops were accustomed to overwhelming enemy resistance through superior firepower and advanced technology. They were not prepared for an enemy that refused to be overwhelmed, that adapted to every tactic, and that seemed to grow stronger the longer the battle continued. "Sir, human forces are broadcasting another message," the communications officer announced. "Display it," Zethrak ordered, though he suspected the message would not improve his situation. The screen showed the same human general from before, but now his appearance suggested someone in the midst of active combat operations. His uniform showed signs of recent action, and the background revealed the interior of what appeared to be a mobile command center. "To the Kethvar fleet currently discovering that Earth fights back," the general began, his voice carrying the confident satisfaction of someone whose plans were proceeding exactly as expected. "You're experiencing something that every aggressor in human history has learned the hard way. We get better at killing you the longer you fight us." The general's image was replaced by tactical analyses showing human adaptation to Kethvar weapons and tactics in real time. Each engagement revealed new human countermeasures, improved coordination, and enhanced effectiveness. The species that had appeared primitive and helpless was demonstrating a capacity for rapid innovation under pressure that exceeded anything in Kethvar military experience. Human military doctrine is based on a simple principle. We learn from every conflict and apply that knowledge immediately to improve our effectiveness. Your weapons, your tactics, your technology, we study it all and develop countermeasures faster than you can adapt. Right now, human engineers are reverse engineering Kethvar technology from battle damage. Human tacticians are analyzing your combat patterns and developing new attack strategies. Human soldiers are training with captured equipment to understand your capabilities better than you understand ours. The display showed human salvage operations recovering debris from damaged Kethvar vessels. Technical teams worked with desperate efficiency to analyze alien technology and integrate useful discoveries into their own weapon systems. It was a level of battlefield adaptation that suggested a species accustomed to fighting enemies with superior technology. But here's what makes humans truly dangerous, the general continued, his expression hardening into something that made Zethrak's predatory instincts scream warnings. "We don't just adapt to threats. We eliminate them completely. When humans fight, we fight to ensure that our enemies can never threaten us or anyone else again. We don't seek conquest or domination. We seek the complete destruction of anything that threatens our survival." The transmission showed images from human military history that illustrated their point with disturbing clarity. Wars that had resulted not just in victory, but in the complete elimination of opposing forces. Conflicts where human determination had overcome seemingly impossible odds through sheer refusal to accept defeat. Military campaigns that had continued until enemies were destroyed so thoroughly that they could never pose a threat again. You came here expecting easy prey, the general concluded. Instead, you found the one species in the galaxy that has spent its entire evolutionary history learning how to kill things that are bigger, stronger, and more advanced than we are. Every war we've fought, every conflict we've survived, every enemy we've defeated has taught us something new about the art of warfare. And now you get to benefit from everything we've learned. The transmission ended, leaving Zethrak to contemplate the most disturbing possibility he had ever encountered in 3 millennia of conquest. The Kethvar Empire, the galaxy's apex predators, had found a species that was better at warfare than they were. As human forces launched their next wave of attacks with improved coordination and enhanced effectiveness, Zethrak realized that he wasn't just fighting a defensive war anymore. He was fighting for survival against a species that viewed warfare as an evolutionary imperative rather than a tool of conquest. The hunters had become the hunted, and their prey was teaching them what it meant to be afraid. The 4th hour of what should have been a routine conquest brought revelations that shattered Zethrak's understanding of galactic warfare. As his battered fleets struggled to maintain formation against human attacks that grew more sophisticated with each passing moment, long-range sensors detected something that defied every strategic assumption the Kethvar Empire had made about this primitive species. "Commander, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the outer system," his sensor officer reported with the strained voice of someone delivering impossible news. "Multiple contacts approaching at high velocity. They appear to be reinforcements." Zethrak's 6 eyes focused on the tactical display as new contact indicators appeared at the edge of human space. The approaching fleet didn't match any configuration in Kethvar databases, but their energy signatures suggested ships far larger than anything humanity had revealed so far. More disturbing still, they were approaching from multiple vectors, indicating a level of strategic coordination that required advanced planning and communication networks. "Analysis of approaching contacts," Zethrak demanded, though he suspected the answer would not improve his rapidly deteriorating tactical situation. The computer's response confirmed his worst fears. The approaching vessels showed energy signatures consistent with military spacecraft, but their technology profiles didn't match human engineering standards. Instead, they appeared to incorporate technological elements from multiple species, suggesting either extensive trade relationships or successful reverse engineering of captured alien technology. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel in the approaching fleet," the communications officer announced. "Display it," Zethrak ordered, dreading what new revelation awaited him. The main screen showed a human in what appeared to be naval uniform, but his appearance suggested someone who had spent considerable time in space rather than on his species' homeworld. Behind him, the bridge of his vessel revealed technology that was clearly not of human origin, integrated seamlessly with human engineering in ways that spoke to extensive experience with alien systems. "This is Admiral Chun of the Terran Defense Force's Deep Space Fleet," the human began, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to commanding vast military resources. "I'm afraid you've made a rather significant error in judgment by attacking our home world." The Admiral's image was replaced by tactical displays showing the true scope of human military preparation. The fleet approaching Zethrak's position represented only a fraction of humanity's actual space-based forces. Additional fleets operated throughout their local stellar region, some engaged in what appear to be rescue operations for other species, others conducting what the humans termed anti-piracy patrols that had apparently brought them into contact with various galactic civilizations. You see, Earth isn't humanity's only world anymore, Admiral Chen continued, his matter-of-fact tone making the revelation even more chilling. We've been expanding throughout our local region for the past 50 years, establishing colonies, trade relationships, and mutual defense agreements with 17 different species. What you thought was an attack on a primitive, isolated world is actually an assault on the capital of a growing interstellar alliance. Zethrak's mandibles locked in shock as the implications settled over him like a suffocating blanket. Humanity wasn't just a single-world species defending their home. They were the core of a military alliance that spanned multiple star systems and included species with advanced technology. The primitive appearance of their home world had been a deliberate deception designed to lure potential threats into a trap. The tactical display expanded to show the true scope of human expansion throughout their local stellar region. Colony worlds with advanced defensive installations, trading posts that doubled as military bases, diplomatic missions that served as intelligence-gathering operations. The humans had spent decades building a network of military and economic relationships that gave them access to technology and resources far beyond what their apparent development level suggested. The 17 species in our alliance have all faced threats similar to yours at some point in their history, the Admiral explained, his tone becoming more ominous. Pirates, raiders, conquest fleets from various empires that believed smaller civilizations were easy targets. They learned the same lesson you're about to learn. Humanity doesn't just defend ourselves. We defend our friends. And when someone threatens our friends, we take that very personally. The display showed examples of human military interventions on behalf of allied species. Rescue operations that had evacuated entire populations from conquest fleets. Counterattacks that had pursued raiders back to their home systems. Defensive wars that had escalated into offensive campaigns that eliminated threats completely. In every case, human involvement had turned defensive conflicts into decisive victories that left aggressors unable to threaten anyone ever again. But here's what makes this situation particularly unfortunate for you, Admiral Chun continued, his expression hardening into something that made Zethrak's survival instincts scream warnings. 3 of our allied species are survivors of previous HFY conquests. They've been waiting a very long time for the opportunity to repay your empire's hospitality. The transmission showed representatives of 3 species that Zethrak recognized from Imperial conquest records. The Veltar, whose home world had fallen to HFY forces 200 cycles ago. The Dreshkayar, refugees from a conquest campaign that had destroyed their entire stellar civilization. The Mordan, whose resistance to imperial expansion had resulted in the extermination of their species, except for a few thousand survivors who had somehow escaped. All 3 species had been considered extinct or scattered beyond any threat to the Empire. Yet here they were, not only alive, but thriving under human protection, equipped with technology that represented a fusion of their original capabilities with human innovation and military support from other allied species. They've spent decades working with human military engineers to develop weapons specifically designed to counter HFY technology, the Admiral explained. Every piece of equipment, every tactical doctrine, every strategic capability has been refined with one purpose: ensuring that the HFY Empire can never threaten anyone ever again. Zethrak realized with growing horror that humanity hadn't just stumbled into galactic politics. They had been actively gathering intelligence about the Kethvar Empire for decades, studying imperial military capabilities, analyzing conquest patterns, and preparing for exactly this confrontation. The attack on Earth wasn't a simple conquest operation. It was a trap designed to lure Imperial forces into a battle they couldn't win. Sir, the approaching fleet is targeting us with weapons that appear to be specifically designed to penetrate Kethvar shielding, his tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic. Our defensive systems aren't responding to their attack patterns. The main display showed energy signatures that shouldn't have been possible from any technology in the known galaxy. Human Alliance forces were using weapons that combined multiple technological approaches in ways that created capabilities specifically tailored to counter Kethvar advantages. Shield frequencies that the Empire had considered unbreakable were being penetrated by weapons that somehow matched their exact harmonic resonance. Armor plating that had protected Kethvar ships for millennia was being cut through by energy beams tuned to exploit microscopic weaknesses in Imperial metallurgy. How do they know our defensive specifications? Zethrak demanded, watching as his fleet's most advanced protective systems failed against weapons that seemed designed specifically to counter them. Unknown, sir. The attack patterns suggest intimate knowledge of Kethvar technology that should be classified at the highest Imperial security levels. Either they've captured and analyzed Imperial vessels, or they have access to intelligence sources within the Empire itself. The possibility that the Empire faced not just external threats, but potential internal security breaches added another layer of complexity to a situation that was already beyond Zethrak's experience. If humanity's alliance had access to classified Kethvar technology, then every military advantage the Empire relied upon was potentially compromised. Commander, we're receiving priority communications from the human planet, the communications officer announced. Multiple transmission sources, all broadcasting simultaneously. Display all channels, Zethrak ordered, needing to understand the full scope of what he was facing. The main screen divided into multiple windows showing human military commanders, government officials, and civilian leaders all broadcasting coordinated messages. But these weren't surrender offers or pleas for mercy. They were declarations of intent that chilled Zethrak to his core. To all Kethvar forces in our system, began a human military commander, you are now surrounded and outgunned by a force specifically designed to counter your technology and tactics. But surrender isn't an option we're prepared to accept. Too many species have suffered under Kethvar oppression for us to allow any of you to return to your empire with intelligence about our capabilities. Another window showed a human civilian leader whose calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the dire nature of his words. Our alliance has spent decades preparing for this moment. We've studied your empire's history, analyzed your military doctrine, and developed strategies specifically designed to ensure that the Kethvar threat is eliminated permanently. This isn't just about defending our worlds. This is about liberating the galaxy from the empire that has terrorized it for 3 millennia. A third transmission showed a representative of one of the surviving conquered species, whose voice carried the cold hatred of someone who had lost everything to Kethvar aggression. Every ship you lose here weakens your empire's ability to threaten others. Every warrior who doesn't return reduces your capacity for future conquests. Every defeat you suffered demonstrates to the galaxy that the Kethvar Empire can be beaten. We're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting to end your reign of terror forever. Zethrak realized with dawning horror that he wasn't just facing a defensive action by a primitive species. He was confronting a carefully planned military operation designed to begin the destruction of the Kethvar Empire itself. Humanity hadn't just prepared to defend their world. They had prepared to eliminate the threat that the Empire represented to all galactic civilization. As Human Alliance forces closed in on his fleet with weapons designed specifically to kill Kethvar warriors and tactics developed specifically to counter Imperial military doctrine, Zethrak began to understand the true scope of the trap he had walked into. The galaxy's apex predators had found their executioner, and it wore a human face. The final phase of what had begun as a routine conquest operation transformed into something unprecedented in 3 millennia of Kethvar imperial history. As Zethrak watched his once mighty fleet disintegrate under coordinated attacks from forces that seemed to anticipate his every tactical decision, he realized that he was witnessing not just the defeat of his expedition, but the beginning of the end for the Empire itself. The Human Alliance had revealed capabilities that defied every assumption about galactic military power. Their weapons didn't just match Kethvar technology. They surpassed it in ways that suggested decades of focused research and development. Their tactics didn't just counter Imperial doctrine. They turned Kethvar advantages into fatal vulnerabilities. Most terrifying of all, their strategic planning operated on a scale that encompassed not just this battle, but the systematic destruction of the Empire's ability to threaten anyone ever again. Damage reports from all vessels, Zethrak commanded, though he suspected the information would only confirm what his senses already told him. His fleet was dying. The reports painted a picture of systematic destruction that spoke to human understanding of Kethvar engineering down to the smallest detail. Every critical system had been targeted with surgical precision. Life support systems strained under the load of battle damage that somehow managed to keep his warriors alive while rendering their ships increasingly ineffective. Weapons systems suffered cascading failures that suggested attacks designed to create maximum disruption with minimum energy expenditure. Most disturbing of all, the humans weren't trying to destroy his fleet quickly. They were dismantling it piece by piece, keeping his warriors alive to witness their own helplessness while demonstrating capabilities that would terrify any Imperial force that might follow. "Sir, we're receiving communications from the Empire," his communications officer reported. "High Command is demanding immediate status reports from all conquest fleets." Zethrak stared at the communication indicator, knowing that the news he would have to deliver would shatter Imperial confidence in ways that 3 millennia of conquest had never prepared them for. How could he explain that a species the Empire had classified as primitive had not only resisted, but had demonstrated military capabilities that rivaled or exceeded Imperial standards? "Sir, the humans are broadcasting on Imperial emergency frequencies," the communications officer continued. "They appear to be attempting communication with Kethvar High Command directly." "Display it," Zethrak ordered, though he dreaded what new revelation awaited him. The main screen showed Admiral Chen again, but now his appearance suggested someone making an official diplomatic contact rather than conducting military operations. Behind him, representatives of multiple species stood in what appeared to be a formal council chamber, their diverse appearances united by expressions of grim determination. "To the leadership of the Kethvar Empire," Admiral Chen began, his voice carrying the formal authority of someone speaking on behalf of a coalition government. "I am Admiral Chen, representing the Terran Alliance and 17 member species. We are broadcasting this message on your military emergency frequencies to ensure it reaches your highest leadership levels." The Admiral paused, allowing the implications of his words to settle. The humans had not only penetrated Kethvar communication security, but We're using Imperial emergency protocols to deliver what appeared to be an ultimatum to the Empire's core leadership. Your conquest fleet at the coordinates you've designated as Sector 7 Alpha 9 has been neutralized. Commander Zethrak and his surviving warriors are currently held under combat restraint, unable to return to Imperial space with intelligence about our capabilities. This was not a defensive action. This was a demonstration. The display showed tactical recordings of the battle from human perspectives, revealing the true scope of their military coordination and technological superiority. Every phase of the engagement had been planned in advance, with contingencies prepared for every possible Kethvar response. What had appeared to Zethrak as adaptive tactics had actually been the implementation of battle plans developed over decades of preparation. For 3,000 years, your empire has terrorized the galaxy through superior military force and technological advantage. Admiral Chun continued, his tone becoming more ominous. You have enslaved species, destroyed civilizations, and created a reign of terror that has stifled galactic development for millennia. That era ends now. The transmission showed images from across Human Alliance space, revealing the true scope of their military preparation. Entire solar systems have been converted into fortress networks. Shipyards operated around multiple stars, producing vessels designed specifically for anti-Kethvar warfare. Training facilities on dozens of worlds prepared Alliance forces for campaigns that would carry the war to Imperial space itself. The Terran Alliance hereby declares its intention to liberate every species currently under Kethvar oppression, the Admiral announced, his words carrying the weight of a death sentence for the Empire. We have spent 50 years building the military capability necessary to challenge your forces directly. We have formed alliances with survivor populations from your conquests. We have developed weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter your technological advantages. Most importantly, we have prepared our entire civilization for a war of liberation that will continue until the Kethvar Empire no longer exists. Zethrak felt his mandibles lock in shock as the full scope of humanity's intentions became clear. This wasn't just about defending their world or even their local region. They were declaring war on the entire Kethvar Empire with the stated goal of destroying it completely. Your empire exists because you have never faced an opponent willing and able to match your commitment to total warfare, Admiral Chen explained, his voice carrying the confidence of someone whose strategic planning had anticipated this moment for decades. Every species you conquered surrendered when faced with overwhelming force. Every civilization you destroyed lacked the resources to resist effectively. Every opponent you defeated failed to understand that defeating the Kethvar Empire requires the same total commitment to warfare that built it in the first place. The display showed strategic analyses of Kethvar military capabilities that revealed understanding of Imperial doctrine that exceeded what many Kethvar commanders possessed. Human intelligence had penetrated Imperial strategic planning to a degree that suggested either captured personnel or compromised communication networks. Either possibility represented a security breach that threatened the Empire's entire military structure. Humanity and our allies understand total warfare because we have practiced it against each other for our entire evolutionary history, the Admiral continued. Every human world is a fortress. Every human citizen is a potential warrior. Every human resource is dedicated to military capability when threatened. When humans go to war, we mobilize our entire civilization until victory is achieved or our species is extinct. There is no middle ground. The transmission showed examples of human total war doctrine that illustrated their point with terrifying clarity. Industrial production converted from civilian to military purposes within days. Entire populations relocated to support military operations. Scientific research redirected to weapons development with unprecedented speed and efficiency. It was a level of civilizational militarization that exceeded even Kethvar standards during the Empire's most aggressive expansion phases. But, unlike your empire, we don't seek conquest or domination. Admiral Chen clarified, his expression hardening into something that made Zethrak's predatory instincts scream warnings. We seek the complete elimination of threats to galactic freedom. When the Terran Alliance goes to war, we fight to ensure that our enemies can never threaten anyone ever again. The Kethvar Empire will not be defeated and reformed. It will be destroyed so thoroughly that future generations will study its fall as a cautionary tale about the dangers of oppression. The transmission ended with coordinates for Imperial surrender protocols and deadlines for the withdrawal of all Kethvar forces from occupied territories. But the terms offered no negotiation, no compromise, no possibility of continued Imperial existence. Humanity was offering the Kethvar Empire a choice between voluntary dissolution and violent destruction. Sir, we're detecting massive fleet movements throughout Alliance space, the sensor officer reported. Hundreds of vessels departing from multiple systems, all heading toward Imperial territory. They appear to be implementing a coordinated offensive campaign. Zethrak realized that while his fleet had been trapped and neutralized at Earth, humanity's alliance had been launching simultaneous operations throughout their region of space. What had appeared to be a single battle was actually the opening phase of a galactic war that would determine the future of interstellar civilization. Commander, the humans are offering to allow one ship to return to Imperial space with recordings of this engagement, the communications officer announced. They want the Empire to understand what happened here. Zethrak understood the offer for what it was, a final act of psychological warfare designed to spread terror throughout Imperial command structure. One survivor returning with evidence of total defeat would accomplish more than completely destroying his fleet. It would demonstrate that the Kethvar Empire could be beaten, that their 3,000-year reign of terror was ending, and that the galaxy's apex predators had finally found their match. As he prepared to record his final report for Imperial Command, Zethrak reflected on the bitter irony of his situation. The Kethvar Empire had conquered the galaxy by finding species that couldn't match their commitment to warfare. Now, they faced a species whose entire civilization was dedicated to perfecting the art of war. The hunters had become the hunted, and their prey was humanity. In 3,000 years of conquest, the Kethvar Empire had never encountered a species that fought back harder the longer the battle continued. They had never faced an enemy that grew stronger under pressure, adapted faster under stress, and became more dangerous when threatened. They had never confronted a civilization that viewed warfare not as a tool of conquest, but as an existential imperative requiring total commitment until victory was achieved. Humanity had spent their entire evolutionary history preparing for this moment, and now the galaxy would learn what it meant when a species born to fight decided that the age of empires was over.